How is it that some people can walk through horrendous hardships and come through the other side, not only closer to each other, but also closer to God and stronger in their faith? Stay tuned to find out. Hello and welcome to the digital church service for Mission Grove Church. If you're connecting with us for the very first time, I invite you to text the word NEW to 480-637-3670. Again, that's text the word NEW to 480-637-3670. And by texting that number, one of our team members will respond to you, follow up, and send you some free resources to help you grow in your faith. If we've not had the privilege of meeting yet, my name is John Craigle and I'm the lead pastor. And I want to invite you to join us back in person next Sunday, January 8th, for what we're calling Victory Sunday. We're going to look back and celebrate all that God did in 2022, as well as praise and pray for all that God's going to do in 2023. So if you're ready to experience a victory in 2023, I invite you to come back, join us in person or online January 8th for Victory Sunday. Now today we are going to be inspired by an incredible couple who walked through the most difficult of circumstances and yet kept their calling and faith in Jesus Christ. James chapter 1 tells us to count it as joy when you face trials of many kinds. But have you ever read that passage and wondered, how is that possible? Right? When you walk through the hard things of life, how is it that you can actually not only not turn away from God, but actually turn to Him, lean in, and grow closer to family and closer in your faith? I know you're going to be inspired when you hear the story and faith journey of Corey and Wendy Butler.
How do you deal with life when a simple ankle sprain turns into multiple surgeries, possible leg amputation, and a diagnosis that you may never walk again? This is the story of Wendy and Corey Butler, a story of courage, endurance, and most important, faith.
In 2016, I was in my kids' room and I tripped on I don't know, a toy, clothes, something, and I hurt my foot. It was my left foot at the time, and I feel like I thought I broke something, but I wasn't sure. I thought it was a sprain, so I just waited to go to the doctor. And that same week, I tripped in a rabbit hole outside. So I really wasn't sure if it was the rabbit hole that hurt my foot or the kids' clothes or toys in their bedroom. And so I waited a while to go to the doctor, probably a couple weeks, and ended up going to the doctor. And when I did, I had a navicular bone that was broken in the left foot. So I finally found a doctor. He casted my foot, the left one here, and said, no, it's gonna be fine. We're just gonna cast it for 8 weeks and then it'll be fine.
But when the cast was removed 8 weeks later, her broken foot had actually gotten worse.
And I told him it had hurt the whole time it was in the cast, and he said, oh, it's fine. It's just, it's nothing. And I was like, okay, he took the cast. I didn't know, I've never had a cast before. He took the cast off and he looked at it and he x-rayed it and he came back and said, what have you done? What did you do to your foot? And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I was in the cast the whole time. And it had broken even worse, and told me that I needed to have surgery, and they were saying that they thought that I may have Charcot.
Charcot foot is an inflammatory process that affects the soft tissues, bones, and joints in the foot or ankle. It limits the mobility of the foot and is very susceptible to breaking easily.
It was non-weight bearing as well, so I couldn't ever stand on it, and I had casts. I mean, every week I'd have a new cast. Well, at that point, I felt like it was just a broken foot, you know what I mean? I felt like it was gonna be, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks, and it would be healed like everybody else that gets a cast on their foot. So it wasn't anything that I was thinking that was gonna be a lifetime. I just thought it was gonna be a few weeks, you know, or a few months or whatever.
Little did Wendy realize that the break in her foot would drastically change her life for the next 6 years.
I think I was in denial actually for a really long time that it was Charcot, because everything that you see and read, I mean, it's 0.4% of the population that gets Charcot. So I'm like, really? Like, okay, God, why? I'm that 0.4%, seriously?
I guess my thought process was more of a, this is what God gave us, this is what we're going to deal with. And I don't like to say it is what it is, but it was what it was. And we were going to, we were going to make it work one way or the other. I kind of felt like, so that's just the hand God dealt us, and we were going to play the best hand we could play with it.
So over the next 3 years or so, I had about 6 surgeries on my left foot. And the bone wasn't healing is really what the problem was with this foot. So there was no bone growth. And every time we would go back, we would be like all excited to go, and we'd be like, okay, there's gonna be bone growth. We just knew, and every time he would say, I'm so sorry, there's no bone growth. And the scheduler was in there, the surgery schedule, the nurse, they all came in and they all cried because he said, he looked at it and said, I'm so sorry. We just all knew there was gonna be bone growth. And it's still being held together with, but it's stable, but it's still being held together with scar tissue.
Hoping to find a doctor somewhere to make things better, Wendy's life actually got more complicated.
She was diagnosed with Charcot, and we were doing a lot of research on doctors and is there a Charcot specialist anywhere? And we learned that there really isn't.
We ended up researching the doctors even more because I had gone to the doctor, and this is after I broke my right foot, because I broke my right foot somewhere between year 3 and 4. And I stepped up on a curb, and Charcot can be triggered by any injury. So I stepped on the curb, and when I did, it kind of bent my foot down and broke my foot, which I didn't know at the time.
But God was just about to open a new door that would be a game changer.
And my girlfriend kept telling me, she's like, Wendy, just go see Dr. Flynn. Go see Dr. Flynn. And I'm like, I said, no, I like my doctor. I don't really want to see him. And she goes, you should just go see him. Just go see him. And I'm like, no. The reason that I even looked again for another doctor is because we were still working on this foot, and he told me that I was going to have to wear what's called a crow's boot. It could be the rest of my life, it could be a year. And I had worked really hard to stay out of a crow's boot because they're big and bulky, and it's just a really difficult thing to have to wear the rest of your life. I mean, if that's the only way that I could walk, I would have done it, but it just wasn't. I'm like, no, I've tried so hard. And I came home and I did research, or just look up a Charcot specialist near me, thinking nothing's gonna come up. And when it popped up, it was Zach Flynn, Charcot specialist. I was like, oh, Corey.
You're like, yeah, that's the guy on the other doctor's webpage. And what we learned after we saw Dr. Flynn was the doctor in Chicago didn't invent Charcot, but he was kind of the modern day pioneer in the repairs
treatment
and this Dr. Flynn is kind of his protege.
When they cut the cast off my foot, I mean, the whole room gasped. They were just like, because it was so big and swollen, and I mean, it was just yucky and pus, and I actually got up to go to the bathroom, and when I got up to go to the bathroom and I touched my foot to the floor, the pressure from touching my foot to the floor popped my foot, basically. The nurses were coming in with other nurses saying, this is the girl that her foot popped. And I'm like, what?
And the doctor came in and did like an emergency surgery, like in the room. We didn't even go to the emergency or the operating room yet. He did it like right there in the room. A few hours later, he was in the actual operating room, cleaning out all the infected, all the.
He cut it open and left it open to clean out the infection, so he had to go wash it out even more. There were 11 doctors that were in the first surgery that we went into the OR for, and all 11 of them told told him, cut it off, take her foot. It's not worth it. It's not worth the paperwork. It's not worth the time. It's not worth, just cut it off. And he said, absolutely not. He said, I'm not gonna do that. And he basically that day saved my foot. But I know that the Lord is who was guiding and directing him, and that's who healed my foot, not the doctor, not the surgeons that were in there, not anybody. But God definitely worked through Zach, and with his knowledge, he saved my foot that day. And I always plan on walking, and that wasn't something that passed through my head. I had people that, were on the groups for Facebook or whatever. I'd look up a Charcot group, and they would all be so sad, and this is gonna take my life, and it's so, and I never felt that way. I always knew that God had a plan, and I was not gonna stop walking because that's not what he wanted, and I felt like all of these people that are so sad, they wanted to take their lives. They wanted to just give up all the time. And I can honestly say that I know that Jesus never wanted me to give up, and that there's a reason that I'm still here.
But her battle in trying to walk again was far from over. That summer, another infection in her foot required yet another surgery.
And he said, I'll give you Thanksgiving, but you're going into the hospital to have surgery on Friday. Took me in that day, opened my foot up and took the talus out. And some of the pictures that you have is of what is the talus now, what he took out. What should look like skeletal bone, it sounds really gross, but it looked like a meatball. Like it was so infected and breaking down.
But during recovery from this talus infection, a new and innovative procedure was offered, a surgical procedure which had never been tried before.
During that time, it was about from November to April, we kind of just would sit and talk about what we could do, or what he was gonna do with my foot. And we came up with a plan. It was a new technology, and it was a 3D printed talus. So basically, they get all the specifications of my bones and my foot and everything that's there. And this company in North Carolina printed a 3D talus out of titanium, and they were able to put that in my foot in April. And to our knowledge and to the doctor's knowledge, I'm the first Charcot patient that's ever had that done, because so many people won't invest in that because they're afraid it's gonna fail. And I'm like, it's not gonna fail, it's gonna be great. God is, what, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it. And my mindset too was, the next thing is to lose my foot. But if it works, and it is working, and God intends to use this for something, if other people can benefit from me trying it and knowing that it works and didn't fail, then think about how many feet we can save,
While this new procedure was remarkably successful, the healing and strengthening of the foot is still an ongoing process.
It's progressive, so you put a little bit of weight on it, and then you go back and get an x-ray and see if the bone's growing. Then you can go to the bathroom, and then you go back and see if you can, the bone's growing. Today I'm able to walk. I can walk, and it really is a miracle every time I take a step. It's a miracle.
It was a jubilant moment, maybe? Like, we haven't walked in 6 years. And we've been on a knee scooter, crutches, wheelchair, electric wheelchair, whatever, like for the last 6 years. So for her to walk, I think that, as believers, we believe that he is the great physician, the great healer. But I saw it.
When difficult times come, the question always is, where is God in all this? Wendy and Corey Butler would answer that God is right here, in the middle of it, guiding our every step, and in Wendy's case, bringing the physical healing to her foot that she so often prayed for.
you know. And I remember my mom and the boys, like I said, standing at the foot of my bed, and they were praying over me one night, and I remember somebody touching my arm, and I looked up and there wasn't anybody there. And I remember saying, Jesus is here, and he said it's gonna be okay.
To watch it not fix itself, but become better, and watch her grow, and watch her go from having to lay in bed for 3 months at a time and not do anything to now she's walking. And that has really just been almost kind of freeing on the heart to watch all that happen.
It made me think about, boy, I don't just have the problem, you know what I mean? Like this is their storm too. You know, you don't think about how affected everybody else is around you.
Even though that it's been really tough and really hard for us, I think that it's got us all closer in a way.
I just wanted to say that I'm proud of my mom, first of all, for always showing God and love, even though she was in such a terrible spot. And I just wanted to say that I'm proud of my dad for stepping up and playing both parts for a while, taking care of all of us when stuff went south, I guess. He did an amazing job keeping us here. And
I look at Corey and sometimes I'm like, I see marriages that have crumbled for
Much less than this.
Yeah. And he's been solid through this whole thing and taking care of me, doing things that I wish he never would have had to have done. But he did it, and never once did he waver on his love for me.
You know, you pray for wisdom, and you pray for patience, and you pray for all these things, and I think God gave us those opportunities to learn all those lessons, and they're not easy lessons either. You know, it's been a tough go, but I wouldn't want to have done it with anybody else.
Today I'm able to walk. I can walk, and it really is a miracle every time I take a step. You know, it's a miracle that I'm here, that I'm able to take a step, and I'm still able to do that. He's not done with me. You know, there's a purpose that I'm here, and I don't know what it is, but I know that his purpose is greater than mine. And I know that I'm going to, that I do serve him better because of what I've gone through.
Wow. For some of you, you might have seen that story or met that couple for the first time. But for me, I have the honor and the blessing to call them friends. And so the Corey and the Wendy that you saw in that interview, I can tell you, they lived out. Their faith is real. Their love for family is real. And I know the reason they agreed to share their story, not only with me, but with all of you, is because they want you to have the same faith. If you want to take that step of faith right now, I invite you to text the word Jesus to 480-637-3670, and we want to help you grow and take that first step or next step in your Christian journey. Wherever you are, wherever you're watching this, know that God is with you and that God is for you. So let's start off the new year believing in Jesus and trusting Him in all of our circumstances. God bless.
I was a wretch. I remember who I was. I was lost. I was blind. I was running out of time. And sin separated across the great divide. But from the far side of the chasm, you held me in your sight. So you made a way across the great divide, left behind heaven's throne to build it here inside. And there at the cross, you paid the debt I owed, broke my chains, freed my soul. For the first time I had hope. Thank you, Jesus, for the blood applied. Thank you, Jesus, it has washed me white. Thank you, Jesus, you have saved my life. You brought me from the darkness into glorious light. In the grace laid inside my tomb of sin, you were buried for 3 days, but then you walked right out again. And now death has no sting, and life has no end. For I have been transformed by the blood of the Lamb. Thank you, Jesus, for the blood applied. Thank you, Jesus, it has washed me white. Thank you, Jesus, you have saved my life. You brought me from the darkness into glorious light. There is nothing stronger than the wonder-working power of the that calls us sons and daughters. We are ransomed by our Father through the There is nothing stronger. Oh, the wonder-working power of the calls us sons and daughters. We are ransomed by our Father through the Jesus, the blood applied. Jesus, it has washed me white. And thank you, Jesus, you have saved my life. You brought me from the darkness into glorious light. Glory to his name. Glory to his name.